Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. These are the declassified documents that Tulsi Gabbard revealed and released several weeks back. After the Leticia James indictment, it is almost certain that a whole number of people, Schiff and others, including John Brennan, will be indicted and face almost certain prison time. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get started. I want to read you the following. John Brennan lied and denied using the dossier in the ICA because he knew it was a discredited, politically motivated, manufactured document. This is a crime. These are numerous crimes. He lied numerous times. That's perjury. But also, ladies and gentlemen, there are far greater statutes. There are conspiracy statutes that will be leveled against a lot of people. I told you that Comey and Leticia James would be indicted. That is only the beginning. People set up and framed Trump for 10 years. They broke the law doing so. So the difference is that Trump never broke the law. That's why the people who went after him had to break the law in setting him up and framing him, especially with a hoax pertaining to Trump and Russia. Not one shred of evidence linked Trump to Russia at all. And they fabricated everything. But let's get started really quickly with the Leticia James indictment. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you. After this, ladies and gentlemen, go to H.A. Goodman's other channel that will be below in the description, in the description and the comment. And to my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you.
Well, New York Attorney General Leticia James has been indicted on charges of banking fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. James and her fellow Democrats say the prosecution is politically motivated, citing her 2020 lawsuit against President Trump. James released this video statement yesterday. Watch.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution.
She is literally on video numerous times stating that she's going to make Trump's life miserable. She's going to try to take him down. She campaigned on going after Trump. There's a famous video of her and another woman stating they're going to make Trump's life miserable, and the other woman asking Leticia James to sue him for us. And James saying, yes, we're going to be a real pain in his rear end. So, I mean, the irony is unbelievable. Less than 2 years later, and now everyone who went after Trump is saying, oh my God, he's going after us for political retribution. It's like, well, why did you try to set up and frame Trump? Leticia James's actual lawsuit the case was overturned by the state Supreme Court. The $500 million, that was overturned. So we'll get to John Brennan in a second, but I want to show you that Comey was indicted, James was indicted. You're going to get more indictments.
At any cost.
Let's bring in Paul Morrow, attorney, retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor. Okay, so this doesn't surprise us that she would come out and say this, obviously, and that Democrats are going to use this as a political, talking point. But doesn't this case have teeth?
It does, and I have to tell you that all you need to do is read the indictment to see that it does, because it's a very simple, plain-spoken indictment, which is crucial in a financial case, because in financial cases, they can get very complicated. You could potentially lose the jury. This one doesn't have that. Now, to clear something up, the primary residence issue is not here. That was the initial allegation we all heard about from the power of attorney form. What it comes down to is the following. She signed the operative paperwork to get the loan, saying that the house in Virginia is going to be a second house, not an investment property, a second house for her to go to herself. She's not allowed to have somebody there renting it. Okay, that's how she gets the loan. She then takes her
Let's bring in Paul Morrow, attorney, retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor. Okay, so this doesn't surprise us that she would come out and say this, obviously, and that Democrats are going to use this as a political, talking point. But doesn't this case have teeth?
All right, so this is the case against Leticia James. Check it out.
It does, and I have to tell you that all you need to do is read the indictment to see that it does, because it's a very simple, plain-spoken indictment, which is crucial in a financial case, because in financial cases, they can get very complicated. You could potentially lose the jury. This one doesn't have that. Now, to clear something up, the primary residence issue is not here. That was the initial allegation we all heard about from the power of attorney form. What it comes down to is the following. She signed the operative paperwork to get the loan, saying that the house in Virginia is going to be a second house, not an investment property, a second house for her to go to herself. She's not allowed to have somebody there renting it. Okay, that's how she gets the loan. She then takes her paperwork for her taxes and puts on her tax forms that it is an investment property and in fact has write-offs relative to the investment property. So internally it's inconsistent by her own paperwork. By getting the lower rate for a non-investment property, she saved about $19,000 to this point. That is the crux of the allegation.
Okay, and so here's a senator from Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin. This is what she told CNN on Thursday.
Just as part of a bigger trend of the President of the United States using the Department of Justice, using the legal system to go after political adversaries.
It's like the AI robots in the Democratic Party. It's so amusing. They don't realize that's exactly what took place with Jack Smith, with Merrick Garland, with 4 years. All throughout Biden's presidency, they went after Trump on the state level. They went after Trump on the federal level. They never stopped trying to imprison Trump and everyone around Trump, not just President Trump, his lawyers, which was so egregious, unbelievable. They never stopped. And now it's Comey, Leticia James. But see, these are just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. You think President Trump is just going to stop with 2 counts of perjury with Comey and 1 count with Leticia James? Leticia James will probably have less. There will be less indictments associated with Leticia James than there will Comey or Brennan. We'll get to Brennan in a second, but let's just or Schiff and others. But let's just talk about the indictment hours earlier, just last night.
Using the arms of our democracy to go after political adversaries. It's just a broken way to do politics.
I wonder what you think about that, because nobody said that at the beginning when Leticia James went after Trump for the same thing.
Yeah, pretty rich when you consider the fact that that was her promise in coming into office as the Attorney General, that she was going to be using her office to go after Donald Trump, which is really not her remit as supposedly the top law enforcement officer in New York. And let's recognize something else. She also got through, it had to be for her sake, through Albany, a $10 million fund for anybody who has federal government coming after them for what they've done on the job and off the job, anybody that's been targeted. So she's saying she hasn't accessed that fund yet. $10 million. She's got a high-priced lawyer, Abby Lowell. I have a feeling the citizens of New York are going to be paying for Abby Lowell's swimming pool. So that $10 million is sitting there waiting for her to access it. The legislature put it through. The governor, Kathy Hochul, signed off on it. But here's the thing. The stakes for her are very high here because they're not going to plead this out. And if she gets convicted on a felony, which this is, she loses her law license and she has to step down. Essentially, she's going to be unemployable in public life in New York.
When I go down to Jersey really quickly here, we've got this crazy governor's race. It's getting very, very.
And all to what has taken place in terms of benefit. How has anyone benefited when selling their soul to go after Trump? You look at every single former FBI agent that went after Trump, DOJ official, Leticia James, state level officials, okay, not just in New York, other states as well, okay? Has it benefited anyone? And it's like, it's like the Trump curse for people who wanted to try to destroy him and ruin him. It's like this boomerang effect. If they go after Trump, their lives get ruined. It's really unbelievable. But let's look at the link now between Leticia James, then Adam Schiff. Now we'll get to John Brennan. But this is the direct link between indictments of Comey, but also obviously Leticia James last night, and John Brennan. Check this out.
Saying that the then Democrat chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, authorized leaks of classified information to damage President Trump during his first term. The whistleblower, a longtime Democrat staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, said Schiff was upset because he expected to be the CIA director in a Hillary Clinton presidency. In a statement to
Could you imagine Adam Schiff as the CIA director and Hillary Clinton as president? How many peace deals do Trump has? Like 5 or 6 or 7? No, like over 7. Negotiated a negotiated end to military conflict in the past 2 years or so since he's been in office. 8 different times he's helped resolve or put an end to conflict between nations. He's the anti-war president. What do you think that? And he's working on what happened under Biden, that terrible invasion that continues. Why is that all these invasions take place under President Obama, Bush, and Biden, but not Trump? Could you imagine Schiff as CIA director and Clinton as president?
To Fox News, a spokesperson for Schiff said this: Kash Patel's latest smear against Senator Schiff is absolutely and categorically false and is the latest in a series of defamatory attacks from the president and his allies meant to distract from their plummeting poll numbers and the Epstein files scandal. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the director.
And if Trump was in the EP files at all, they would have been released 10 years ago. So the people who are like, oh, he's on the files, really? Why didn't Biden release them? They tried to imprison Trump and do everything possible only to catapult him to a second term. Please explain how Trump is in the EP files and Biden didn't release them. Nobody leaked them. Okay, because he's not in any meaningful way, whether it's fabricated, that could be, because they fabricate intelligence all the time. Trump made a reference to that. But the people are like, oh, he's hiding. It's like, if he's hiding, EP was a Democratic donor, gave tens of thousands of dollars to Schumer, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. He was a New York liberal Democrat. That's why even Vox and other publications said, oh yeah, we admit that the New York Democrats were covering for that monster. But anyway, let's continue.
Of the DOJ Weaponization Working Group, Ed Martin. He is investigating the weaponization of government, including Adam Schiff, New York Attorney General Leticia James for mortgage fraud, and the January 6th probe, among others. Ed Martin, great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
If you live in a Georgia... Oh, always a pleasure, Maria.
And Ed, it has really, truly been a decade of dirty tricks, and that's being kind about it, against Donald Trump, beginning with the Russia hoax, to the impeachments, to the indictments, to the Hunter Biden laptop.
By the way, Esmeralda, thank you so very much. To my Super Chat members, thank you. Richard, hello. Everyone here, hello. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Esmeralda, again for becoming a member. Thanks, everybody. Hit subscribe if you're new.
Assess for us the last 10 years in your view, and you have criminal referrals right now on Adam Schiff, Leticia James, among others. What is the status?
Well, first of all, thanks for asking about the last 10 years. I mean, you know, when Donald Trump came into office as president, he signed an executive order saying, go and find out how government was weaponized against the citizens. When Attorney General Bondi came into office, she put a memo, put more specifics to it, and said, get to the bottom of this. She gave a specific list and a broad charge. And I have to tell you, for your viewers, we have the Attorney General Bondi has that Department of Justice spinning like a top. We've got more stuff going on. A lot of it we can't talk about because of the nature of it, but it's...
So Ed Martin right here says there is a lot more. You're talking about every single, from Schiff to Brennan to Clapper, almost certainly, to a whole bunch of other people getting indicted. And there are going to be superseding indictments as well. The indictments there'll be placeholder indictments like with Comey, and then they'll go back and they'll add more charges.
specific list and a broad charge. And I have to tell you, for your viewers, we have the Attorney General Bondi has that Department of Justice spinning like a top. We've got more stuff going on. A lot of it we can't talk about because of the nature of it, but it's going like crazy. And one of them was we were in a group, we're still in it, working on the Russia hoax. And Tulsi Gabbard declassified what happened, and she sent it over to us, to DOJ, as a criminal referral, and that's ongoing now. But what that was, and Maria, you're one of the earliest, I think you might be the only person, the only journalist who said early on, this is a Russia hoax. And you know, Brett had President Trump on an interview on that flight to Alaska, and in the interview, President Trump said the Russia hoax was meant to destroy the relationship with Russia, make it impossible to get things under control, get a reset, like Hillary said she wanted. So what we have in the Department of Justice now is a weaponization working group and the backing of our leadership to go and find this stuff. And so the Russia hoax, we know the birthday of the Russia hoax. It's December 8th, 2016, where the Obama administration, including Obama, said, don't put the truth out.
So that is right here. And by the way, Taco Gonzalez, thank you. Thank you, Taco. Greatly appreciated. I really appreciate the live stream. Taco Gonzalez, thank you so much. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Taco Gonzalez, thank you. Thank you, sir. This is it right here in 2016. And the dossier, the Steele dossier, which, by the way, they were compiling a dossier in President Obama. There's a Politico article that we talked about, we showed here just the other day, okay, about dirty tricks. I think it was either Politico or Newsweek, but Clinton was developing a sordid, history of President Obama, and his campaign said, no, we're not going to stand for this, then it ended. But this type of nonsense, and they would have had a Bernie Sanders dossier, but not Sanders dossier, oh my God. But with Bernie, it might have been like a source of pride to be, anyway, whatever. The point is, you have these people who are so corrupt. Like Bernie Sanders was probably in on it. He was probably in on getting cheated. How does the man get cheated and say nothing about it? Can somebody explain this to me? How does Biden get cheated? How does Bernie Sanders and Biden, how are they forced out of their primaries one way or another? Biden having won his primary. How do the Democrats function with the current primary system they have, which is a complete farce and a theatrical performance? And then they pontificate about democracy. Then they pontificate about ICE. You don't like it, change the laws. Literally, there's laws you can change and amend and reform to ensure that anybody that you want not to be deported, you can ensure that with laws. They don't want to run on the laws. They're all emotion, smokescreens, sleight of hand, deception, overt lies by omission. It's just unbelievable. Let's continue.
Lie and ask the media to help us, and the Washington Post and others jumped right in, and then we had the Russia hoax that went on for 10 years, and every time they get in trouble, meaning the deep state and others, they throw another hoax out, and all we're doing at DOJ and all we're doing across the government is saying, get the truth out, and then, by the way, let's hold people accountable, and that's exactly what's going on. So when Bill Pulte sends a criminal referral over to us, and he says Leticia James and Adam Schiff, and by the way, both their lawyers have come out and talked publicly about that criminal referral. So you can talk to them about the specifics, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do is we're going to follow the facts. Every American has that has a mortgage or has other documents they sign has to follow the law. We're going to go to the very bottom of the facts, and if somebody did something wrong, we're not only going to hold them accountable, we're also going to look at everything else that they've been doing, because when you're a liar, you lie not just on one thing. When you're a cheater, you cheat not just on one thing. When you're doing corruption, you generally don't just do it on one thing. So that's our what we're asked to do as prosecutors, and that's what we're doing.
Well, we are all waiting for accountability here. Adam Schiff went on Sunday morning programs and said there was collusion in plain sight. And he was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, so he had to know better that there was no evidence of any collusion in plain sight. So are you saying that this criminal referral is about something completely different, about mortgage fraud? Are you looking to get him on something other than Russia collusion?
Well, I'm saying that there's a referral from Bill Pulte about a mortgage fraud, about Adam Schiff. That's publicly discussed. His own lawyers have been out there. Now there's more on Adam Schiff. And all we're going to do, again, is get to the facts of this and use all the tools that we have in our system. What we've discovered, and I know you want to ask me about some of this, in the weaponization, is that Joe Biden's Justice Department actively targeted American citizens, Catholics who went to Mass, parents who went to school.
Esmeralda, thank you so very much. I was going to thank you also for the earlier super chat. Thank you, Esmeralda. Greatly appreciated. To my super chat, Taco Esmeralda, thank you so very much. So greatly appreciated. I can't do these without you, ladies and gentlemen. Your support is so greatly appreciated. And it's happening. If you've watched this channel, I know that you have watched, a great many people have watched for a long time. I've been telling you, those who went after Trump broke the law in going after Trump, okay? The American people know a criminal. That's why they didn't elect certain people and they elected President Trump, okay? You cannot simply pretend out of the blue, out of nowhere, that Trump is this massive criminal because a lot of smart and wonderful and morally superior Democrats say so. He didn't do anything wrong. He never broke the law. Oh, at least he never broke any of the laws that Democrats accused him of breaking. Not one. Okay, there's no evidence at all. But there is evidence of mortgage fraud, almost certainly. And there is evidence that they set up and framed Trump in a wide-ranging conspiracy. There is evidence of that. Okay, Trump doesn't have to be guilty for them to be either guilty or innocent. The reality is that they were guilty. And they broke laws in trying to imprison Trump, who was innocent. That's why he won the presidency. That's why they continue to lose nationally.
School boards, people who were involved in the Russia. You know, I hear from Carter Page every now and then. Carter Page, it was destroyed by the Russia hoax. And we're sitting around and pretending it's okay to say that, you know, there was a secret meeting on December 9th, 2016 in the Situation Room where they plotted the Russia hoax. And then we're going to say, oh, that was really bad. No, it wasn't really bad. It needs to be held accountable in every way we can.
Well, you went to Leticia James's home this week. You were in New York.
Yeah, look, I'm a prosecutor, and when I do these cases, I was in New York I was in Newark, actually, New Jersey, for some meetings, and I went over to New York for another meeting, and I went by there. One of the referrals is about that property that she has, is a very a prominent neighborhood in Brooklyn, and I wanted to lay eyes.
Douglas, exactly, exactly.
On it. I think most people, if you're prosecuting something, you're careful. I didn't go there and announce it. Some woman came storming up and shooting video and talking to me, but I wanted to see the property. And there's a number of other aspects of these cases where you got to get a sense of what is actually at stake.
Do you have a grand jury in these cases?
Let me say, when you get a criminal referral, one of the tools you have is a grand jury, and I'll leave it to you to infer what I mean. But these referrals are criminal referrals, significant enough that that they would warrant using all the tools, and the tools include subpoenas and witnesses, and that is in our system. That is the system. I'm not like Jack Smith. Jack Smith liked to talk about how he did things and what he did and brag about it. Leticia James did, by the way, as a prosecutor. She liked to come out and hold press conferences. I'll just tell you, when you get a criminal referral, and her own lawyer made the comments publicly, you can infer what you need to.
Well, let's talk about January 6th, because you are also investigating January 6th, which was also part of this 10 years of scandals. What have you learned?
Well, again, Attorney General Pam Bondi let us loose on this, and there's a group of...
Could you imagine if there are indictments against people who set up and framed Trump who weren't part? So let's assume people were... The unselect committee was pardoned, but let's say there were people who were not pardoned, who engaged in criminal activity to make that day less safe. Even though I condemn that day, terrible day, horrible day, I 100% totally condemn rioting. Oh, by the way, that happened all throughout the summer. Billions in property damage. Democrats said nothing about that. And gee, I wonder why.
of us working on January 6th, what we've learned is that the federal government, the Department of Justice, but other aspects, targeted these citizens. They basically turned government on to make the hoax work. So I'm not talking about somebody that pushes a cop. That's a charge you can look at and charge. I'm talking about that the FBI and others were putting American citizens on terrorism watch lists. They were auditing their IRS tax returns. They were targeting the American people. They were taking massive amounts of resources and moving them from fighting child trafficking and fighting real corruption and saying we have to move everybody to look at the Capitol siege. It was a political hoax that was driven by Garland, Lisa Monaco, and others. And what, again, Attorney General Bondi has said is get to the bottom of it. Some of it may not be illegal, but it's some of the worst. In federal prosecutor world, we think about the importance of that role. There's a guy named Robert Jackson who is the prosecutor guy. And what you see is Lisa Monaco's Justice Department acting in ways we've never seen before. This is and when we show all that, and we're writing reports regularly on it, it's not one aspect. The federal court system was used in a way. The jails were used in a way to punish people. It's foreign. They didn't do this to the terrorists after 9/11, and they were doing it to American citizens. So that's a fulsome investigation on January 6th, and it will make clear the hoax, which is really the 2020 election hoax. We were told we couldn't talk about it because of January 6th.
I cannot condone such discussion. Biden won 20 billion votes, fair and square, because he was eloquent and because he was an accomplished, awesome human being who fought and defeated cornflakes. And less than 4 years later, George Clooney kicked him to the curb like a discarded Doritos wrapper or a sack of potatoes or whatever you want to, but still he was absolutely the most popular candidate of all time in American history, and I am opposed. I am opposed in every way to the big monumental lie.
Democrat whistleblower has told the FBI that then Congressman Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information in order to discredit President Trump.
And we're getting closer to John Brennan. John O'Brennan. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence.
The White House is giving its first reaction.
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the RUSSIAGATE scandal. I have a quote from the FBI director. For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose, to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ and Congress.
Iowa Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks joins me now to react. Congresswoman, good morning to you. If true, how serious of an offense is this, and what can be done?
Well, it certainly is very serious, and Shifty Adam Schiff is justifying his name that he was given. Leaking classified information, as you know, is a serious offense, and it will be up to the Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee, in order to handle this. But this is a very serious allegation. I've asked for Senator Schiff to resign. He should resign immediately.
Well, a Democrat staffer is the whistleblower. He was a Democrat staffer on the House Intel Committee for 12 years. And on top of claiming that Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information, this person also said Ranking Member Schiff was particularly upset as he had believed he would have been appointed as the director of the CIA had candidate Hillary Clinton won the election. What do you make of those details?
The man who pushed a lie that should be called the big lie. The absurd notion that Russia catapulted Trump because they were so afraid of Hillary and Democrats. Oh, the Russians are afraid of the Democrats. And yet they invade during Biden. I mean, everything terrible takes place. Not for 1 second was Russia even at all afraid or concerned or frightened by Democrats in any way, shape, or form. But anyway, or intimidated. But the man who was in front and center, the vanguard of all these absurd hoaxes, he defended Clinton's server with top secret intelligence. He helped push these absurd lies that Trump should be impeached because, oh my God, he tried to change U.S. foreign policy. As a president. And he worked with Russia and he colluded in this. That person could have been the CIA chief. Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Well, remember that we were upset with Adam Schiff being put on Intel and kept on Intel. We thought he should have left Intel, been off of Intel when this was suspected earlier before, when also suspected that he was lying about classified information. So this is a serious charge. He needs to be held accountable, but people need to call for his resignation. And I think members of Congress, at least on the Republican side, are asking for him to step down.
How will the investigation into this play out?
I think what you'll see is even though we are on our August work period in our districts.
Really quickly, they might declassify documents pertaining to anyone who leaked. Not that I know. I'm pure speculation. I have zero. Thank God I have zero inside knowledge. Most of this has been speculation based on an understanding of politics. For years, that's all it was. Analysis based on real world events that are public record. That's what I do. Okay. And I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I've been spot on. So they'll probably declassify documents associated with Shifty.
You'll start to see that Judiciary and the Oversight Committee will start making, proposals that he be brought in to give testimony in front of the House, to be a witness. They'll start investigations, and they may issue subpoenas. They may wait until we're back in, but those plans are ongoing now.
Okay, well, a spokesperson for Adam Schiff responded to Fox News Digital saying Kash Patel's latest smear for cause in early 2017. Your reaction to that statement from the Schiff camp?
Again, he's living up to his name. He's trying to deflect blame and attention from him and from his actions. People already suspected him of both lying about classified information and leaking classified information. You now have a whistleblower. We didn't have to change the whistleblower law like they did with President Trump and the Russian collusion hoax. But these are serious allegations, and he will be held accountable.
All right. There's also this that we want to ask you about, ending on some positive news here. The U.S. military is...
And here we have John Brennan. Ladies and gentlemen, you had Comey indicted 2 counts, Leticia James indicted 1 count, mortgage fraud, and then the perjury and leaking with Comey. And you have numerous counts with Brennan. But check this out.
Led by then President Barack Obama, CIA Director John Brennan and Hillary Clinton, among others, took the world on a wild goose chase to try and take down their political enemy, Donald Trump, no matter the casualties along the way. DNA Tulsi Gabbard is now calling for prosecutions, revealing declassified documents from the Russia collusion made-up investigation, which she says detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest level of the Obama White House to stop incoming President Donald Trump. The cabal included Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden.
Nobody believes me, but I've been pretty much right on everything. I think President Obama is secretly helping President Trump. I think it behooves him for 2 reasons. Number 1, he takes full control of the Democratic Party. Number 2, he circumvents any criminal or legal liability in being president and, being there when it all started. But check this out.
Jim Comey and Susan Rice, who pushed a made-up story that President Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election, so the cabal would not lose their grip on power. All of this exactly as then Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, Judiciary Committee member John Ratcliffe, and President Trump himself told us so many times from day one.
If you live in a Florida it's the original intelligence, the original reasons that the counterintelligence investigation was started. Now, this is really important to us because a counterintelligence investigation uses the tools of our intelligence services that are not supposed to be used on American citizens. So we've long wanted to know, well, what intelligence did you have that actually led to this investigation? So what we found now, after the investigators have reviewed it, is that, in fact, there was no intelligence.
As a former federal prosecutor, my opinion is that declassifying them would not expose any national security information, would not expose any sources and methods. It would expose certain folks at the Obama Justice Department and FBI and their actions taken to conceal material facts from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
How involved was John Brennan?
Totally involved. He was totally involved. John Brennan was one of the architects, in my opinion. You look at Brennan, you look at Clapper, you look at them all. But ultimately, the president knew everything. The president knew everything. President Obama and Vice President Biden, they knew everything.
And Comey and Brennan and Clapper, they all were terrible, and they lied to Congress. They spied on my campaign, which is treason. They spied both before and after.
And Democrats say, no, we didn't spy. And then the media says, no spying. And then all the Democrats say, we would never spy. And reality is they surveilled through numerous methods, tried to indict everyone within his campaign that they could get to, derived information from his campaign and couldn't use any of the information. So they did spy on his campaign, but they couldn't use it to indict anybody. So what they did was surveilled and spied his campaign, couldn't find any crimes, then fabricated the Trump-Russia hoax through leaks and indictments on things that had nothing to do with the original allegation, and thousands upon thousands of articles, which were all fake news.
I won.
Joining me now is the woman herself, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
By the way, Vance Rubio, what do you think in 28? Definitely J.D. Vance. Not sure about Rubio as vice president, but potentially. What do you think of Vance Rubio? 1,400 people watching. Yes or no in the chat. Let me know. Do you think J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio on the same ticket? What do you think?
Thank you.
What was the most damning thing that you learned after looking through all of these declassified documents?
Maria, the implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do. So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election.
And here's where the Brennan indictment is going to center or originate from, right here. Okay, so they're not going to stop with Comey and with Leticia James. Brennan lied, denied. Okay, there's 12 references here to John Brennan. This is declassified from the Director of National Intelligence. I love how when Democrats want an appeal to authority, or when they champion arguments predicated solely upon appeals to authority, and then the authority in this instance says, oh, by the way, they made up everything, suddenly it's no good. Suddenly it's purely partisan. When they were completely fabricating the Trump-Russia myth, that was real authority, and they were all experts. But anyway, CIA Director Brennan mischaracterized intelligence, misled lawmakers by referencing debunked dossier. The December 9th, 2016 meeting. And that's where you have Susan Rice, but you also have, there's legal liability for President Obama. So that's one reason why he wants to, I think that he'll probably help, or he's probably helping already President Trump. Nobody believes me, but here, later the same day, Brennan ordered the inclusion of substandard reporting. Gee, I wonder why. Could you imagine? Schiff would have made Brennan look like the most honest, amazing director of the CIA. But anyway, or maybe they would have been the same type, same tenure of, leadership. But anyway, Brennan overruled CIA officers who challenged the ICA's claims. We don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. See, there you go. I mean, you have all this information here. Brennan lied and denied using the dossier, lied under oath. Brennan refused to remove the dossier. And it's right here. I mean, this is from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Let's continue.
For the presidency of the United States. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
Yeah. Now, I want to go back to something Devin Nunes said, which is exactly what you're saying right now. And he said, after all of our investigation, we found that there was no intelligence. There was no intelligence actually indicating that Trump colluded with Russia. And what happened? Because there was a presidential daily briefing that was presented to President Obama every day. And every day it said the same thing. We have no evidence of collusion. We have no evidence that Russia did this with Donald Trump. So what happened? How did they?
They had no evidence. No evidence. They had nothing. They had nothing. For the 1,300 or 1,400, 1,200 people watching, they had absolutely nothing. They fabricated everything. And these are the people who hyperventilate about information that misinforms. They hyperventilate. And they're completely apoplectic and hysterical about information that misinforms when they don't care about information. They don't care about misinformation. They are the purveyors, and they spread the most. For 10 years, they have lied by omission. For 10 years, it's been pure marketing that failed. And it was their apoplectic, hysterical response to President Trump that catapulted Trump, made him stronger. President Trump could not be doing what he's doing, indicting everybody, doing everything he's doing domestically and in terms of foreign policy. He is one of the strongest presidents now that we've ever had. He has more presidential power, Donald Trump, than anyone could have imagined, because of Democrats, specifically because of the completely apoplectic and irrational response to Trump defeating Clinton in 2016. Their cherished swamp that they loved so much is completely being drained now, and they could have had everything. They could have still had a very corrupt political system, a uniparty, both parties working together for a whole bunch of things, had they just treated Trump fairly. But again, this man it's unbelievable what Trump was able to accomplish. He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Donald Trump is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. I'll leave it at that.
They actually get the public to believe, and half the public believed, that actually Trump did collude.
Well, this is the thing, Maria, when you look at the assessments that were made, not just by one element of the intelligence community, but in my role as the Director of National Intelligence, I oversee 18 different intelligence community elements. And in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bring together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President Trump.
Now, I know that Devin Nunes came out with the Nunes report and a lot of other reports after that to indicate everything that you're saying. And I guess the worst.
So this is the basis for indictments, not only of Schiff and others, Comey, mainly of Brennan. Because if you look, all of this points to perjury, okay? And you can't get them on perjury, but you can get them on conspiracy statutes that have no statute of limitation. The statute of limitations ends when the conspiracy ends, okay? I want to just show you this real quick. This is a blast from the past, taking a trip down memory lane. This is 7 years ago. Check this out.
About John Brennan's role in this whole thing. On May 23rd of last year, long after the election, he claimed that he didn't know who had paid for the dossier, who asked for it. Watch.
Well, Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier? I don't. Do you know if the Bureau ever relied?
He was lying there. It's so obvious, too. You think he's like a big intel official. He knows how to lie better, which he's brilliant at lying. He's like, I don't. Would you believe I don't?
On the Steele dossier as part of any court filings?
Also, why would you use the Steele dossier as part of an intel assessment if you don't know who funded it or you don't know how it was created? How would you use something where you don't know how it was funded or how it was created? It's so hilarious. Comey did the same thing. He's like, I don't know. It was funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Okay.
Applications, petitions, pleadings. I have no awareness.
I have no awareness. Here now, Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst and current senior vice president at the Center for Security Policy. Fred, good to see you this evening.
Good to be here.
Let me draw your attention to this from an exclusive report in Real Clear Investigations. It says several Capitol Hill sources say Brennan, a fiercely loyal Obama appointee, talked up the dossier to Democratic leaders as well as the press
during the campaign. So that was well before the statement that we just saw. They also said that he fed allegations about Trump-Russia contacts directly to the FBI while pressuring the Bureau to conduct an investigation of several Trump campaign figures starting in the summer of 2016. You have said you think that he is very central to this whole thing.
I do. I think he's a missing link. And I got to tell you, given his hostility towards Mr. Trump,
So this former CIA analyst is brilliant here. Absolutely brilliant. Check this out. He's 100% spot on.
Inconsistencies and contradictions in his statements. I think there's a lot that has to be looked into here. He said he did not see the Steele dossier until late 2016, but learned snippets about it in mid-2016 while he was promoting the story. He also said that the dossier did not affect CIA analysis in 2016 or major intelligence community analysis in early 2017, but the dossier was the principal piece of information used for the FISA warrant application to spy on Carter Page in October 2016. So, Martha, this means that the CIA, according to Brennan, either didn't know about or didn't have the dossier, which is impossible to believe, or the CIA thought the dossier wasn't reliable. There's a lot that has to be looked into here.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note, Paul Sperry, investigative journalist, wrote about this today. He said the dossier makes the same claims and has sort of the same language in it as the Obama ICA, their intelligence community assessment. It says that Putin personally ordered the cyber attacks, that the leaked embarrassing emails were to bolster Trump as part of a, quote, aggressive Trump support operation. So you have the exact same language in both the official Obama intel assessment and the dossier. Does that seem odd to you?
Well, in terms of full disclosure, I was interviewed by Mr. Sperry for this article.
Paul Sperry, great journalist. Absolutely awesome journalist.
This intelligence community assessment that came out in early January 2017 was very, very strange. It was only written by 3 intelligence agencies. It wasn't vetted with the majority of agencies, including the Defense Intelligence Agency and Homeland Security. And it was written by a small group of hand-picked analysts. Now, a committee source, a source with the House Intelligence Committee, told me they're looking at every word of this ICA and they're trying to find out how were these hand-picked analysts picked. Because as a former CIA analyst, I can tell you that's not the way it's done.
And it's likely all the people who worked with Brennan, the analysts, the people who developed the absurd ICA assessment that Putin wanted Trump, they're probably going to be on the witness stand. Or potentially, probably not, but potentially, possibly, potentially, like James Comey says, potentially, indicted themselves.
So in that vein, why were we told by James Clapper and others that 17, the idea was that everyone across the board in the intel community, 17 agencies, all agreed that there was obvious meddling by the Russians in our election?
If you parse exactly what he said, he admitted it was written by the hand-picked analysts. That actually came from Clapper, and he named the agencies they came from. He's tried to say it reflects the views of the entire community, but I've discussed this on Fox before. If you look at the cover page of this assessment, it lacks a key caveat that this is an intelligence community coordinated product. You can look at other ones on the web, and that caveat is there. This one doesn't say that because it was only written and cleared by 3 agencies, one of which was CIA under Brennan's leadership.
We know that Devin Nunes has put a letter out to Brennan and Clapper asking them to answer questions about their understanding about the dossier and whether or not it was relied upon for the intelligence community assessment, which is a large, document that should be compiled by so many of our agencies, as you say, and it turns out that it was just done by a handful of people. So there's a lot of questions, obviously. I want to get your thoughts on some other breaking news tonight. Susan Rice has just responded to Senators Graham and Grassley asking for more information on an email that she sent to herself on Inauguration Day. Here's a look at the email that she sent on Inauguration Day. President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence.
This is like hilarious. So as they were setting up and framing Trump, top official emails herself, saying one of President Obama's top most important officials okay, says, oh, everything was done legally. Send. It's like, that's not relevant now because, look, this is another reason I believe President Obama is helping President Trump secretly, or he benefits politically within the Democratic Party by controlling the entire Democratic Party. He won't have to deal with the I'm with her crowd. And he circumvents legal liability. This legal liability here leads to President Obama.
And law enforcement communities, quote, by the book, she wrote. The president stressed that he is not asking about initiating or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. And
this also is President Obama helping President Trump in real time. President Obama is saying, and this is actually brilliant right here, there's gold here in this analysis. Not that anyone cares, but hey, we have, 1,400 people, so I appreciate each and every one of you. And God bless you all, and thank you for tuning in. But nobody believes me when I say that I do think that President Obama has helped or is helping President Trump. Just being a president, part of world and U.S. history forever. They're part of a club that you can't join unless you're president. And right there, President Obama is stating, I have nothing to do with the FBI, law enforcement. It was Brennan, Clapper, and Comey and everyone else. Okay? He's right. He's stating it right there within the email sent to herself. But anyway, that's the point here. This is huge because it's shifting legal criminal liability to Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and others.
she was going back on that day to document. He reiterated, that our law enforcement team needs to proceed as it normally would by the book with regards to the Trump investigation of Russia. Then this is Senator Graham talking about the letter that he wrote asking her about this on this show back in February. Watch.
I think that's odd and disturbing because we know that the investigation regarding the Trump campaign was anything but by the book.
So tonight, her lawyer is responding to the questions that were raised about why she would have written this email weeks later on Inauguration Day. And this is the response. In the conversation, Ambassador Rice documented there was no discussion of Christopher Steele or the Steele dossier.
Well, of course, she would want that on record forever, because that would be criminal if they did discuss the dossier. And oh, by the way, Brennan and others will be indicted because of this. Almost certainly.
Given the importance and sensitivity of the subject matter, Ambassador Rice created a permanent record of the discussion because that was the first opportunity that she had to do so, given the particularly intense responsibilities of National Security Advisor. What do you mean?
So this is the most important part of this 1 hour live stream right here. This is an admission. This is confirmation. This is evidence that back in January of 2017, when they were about to leave office, and there was about 10 years, close to 10 years of Trump-Russia, a myth, hoax, this absurd Red Scare McCarthy era insanity. President Obama's administration is making it clear through Susan Rice's email that there was no talk of law enforcement or the dossier. Number one, President Obama did not want to be part of setting up and framing or imprisoning President Trump or trying to impeach him so that's what the email is stating, because that would entail Comey and that would entail McCabe and that would entail everyone who set up and framed everyone around President Trump, which was criminal in nature. Okay? And the dossier was purchased by Hillary Clinton. Do you think that President Obama wanted Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, knowing that she had private servers? You think President Obama didn't know? They all knew she had private servers, almost certainly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's right here. I think there's a lot going on that's amusing. I know that nobody believes that President Obama is helping President Trump, but I do think that's the case. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Brennan and others are going to be indicted especially after the indictment of Leticia James. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. It's in the homepage of this channel. It'll be in the description and the pinned comment. We will have new segments this evening and also later this evening and also throughout this weekend. Be here for the live stream tomorrow at about 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody. God bless you all. And to my